You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Haristadoulou.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I'm Ethan Haristadoulou, and today, as we do every Tuesday, we're going through our weekly power rankings, all 32 teams from worst to first, as we begin the back nine of the NFL season. We're 9 weeks through the season now, and week 10 is officially upon us. Can't believe we're already here, but a lot to dive into, a lot to discuss, so make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button, comment down below, what am I getting right, what am I getting wrong with these power rankings, and let's dive right in, shall we? Beginning with the bottom four teams, numbers 32 through 29 on the screen for you guys. Now we start with the Texans at 32, the Raiders at 31, the Panthers at 30, and then the Colts at 29. So the Texans still at the bottom. You can call it what you want, but on Thursday night, they went into a game where they had an opportunity. It was a trap game for the Eagles. They played them a little bit close, but the Eagles were able to separate late into the game. Hats off to the Eagles for not falling into the trap against Houston, but Houston, again, losing, and at this point, they feel like the worst team in the NFL at this moment in time. Then you're looking at the Raiders, who somehow managing to blow blow a win, rather, I should say, where they were up 17-0 and wound up losing a game 27-20 to the Jaguars. I just don't really understand with a roster as talented as they are, how they are, where they are, but this is the reality of the Las Vegas Raiders right now, and I just don't really see the ship turning around right now. At number 30, we have ourselves the Carolina Panthers, and I've got to say, listen, for a team that got absolutely dog walked this week, it doesn't really make sense to me how they're very competitive one week and then the next week they're getting completely throttled. There's a lot to look at for this team. Sam Darnold is coming off of the IR, so there is that to look forward to, but PJ Walker is going to get the start this Thursday. Not really sure where this Panthers team is going as of right now. I do like their defense still, but ultimately just an absolute mess over there, and I think that come season end, there's going to be a lot of just looking at what's going on, retooling, and kind of looking towards the future. Then at number 29, the Indianapolis Colts, who fall 5 spots here to number 29 and I was there at the game. I watched it all go down in person. Listen, this Colts team is an absolute mess. The offensive line needs work. Obviously, Frank Reich is now gone, which I think is, depending on who you talk to, it was a much-needed thing or maybe just time for a change. You can argue whether he had a fair shot or not. Andrew Luck retiring when he was brought in to make Andrew Luck's life easier with a quicker passing game. Who knows what, life could have been like had Andrew Luck stuck around, but ultimately we are where we are. Jeff Saturday is now the interim head coach. I'll be interested to see what they do going forward, but right now, not really too high on the Indianapolis Colts and where they stand. Next group, we have ourselves the Packers making a steep fall to number 28 here. I caught a lot of flack last week from some people about the Packers being a little too high, and you know what, to be fair, they probably were. And after their loss to the Lions, and when I made picks last week for the games, I went 10-3 last week, so make sure you check out my picks. I've been crushing the picks lately. But when I made my picks last week, the Lions, they were a team that I felt like could possibly upset the Packers, and my gut was telling me they would, but I still went with the Packers because of my belief that they could turn things around. But at this point, following that 19-5 loss, the ship is sinking, and it's sinking pretty fast. I don't really know if the Packers can turn it around. They're 3-6, and my mind and heart keep telling me, they're better than that 3-6 record, but at this point, I just don't think they are. So they sit down at number 28 this week, a steep fall. They fell 11 spots. I had them at 17 last weekend, but I think I've put them where they pretty much belong based off the offensive performance that they just put up this past week and Aaron Rodgers' 3 interceptions. Detroit sits at number 27, the team that just beat them there. Good win for them. Ultimately, this is kind of it feels like the floodgates are finally opening up in the NFC North, and the Lions getting to pull off a big upset victory over the Packers is definitely a big proponent of that, but hats off to them. You get the win, and things are changing in the NFC North, man. I don't know if this is a sign of things to come or what, but this is definitely not the same old NFC North that we are used to seeing right now. At 26, we have the Steelers. Coming off a bye week, they actually moved up a couple of spots here, comically enough, even though they didn't do anything just because of teams falling around them. So hats off to the Steelers. You have a very productive bye week. The Jaguars move up a spot for their victory over the Raiders. Excellent job by them thwarting a Raiders team that came into their house and completely kind of knocked them over in the beginning of the game, but then making the comeback, getting the job done. You win by 7. Good win for the Jaguars. And again, the Raiders just in a really tough spot. Next 4 teams, we have ourselves the Denver Broncos, another team on a bye week who ends up moving up. Again, hats off to you guys. Productive bye week. You move yourselves up the boards here, even though you didn't do anything, but because of what was going on around you, you get a couple of, what is this? They went up by 1 spot here, so hats off to them. Arizona Cardinals sitting at number 23. Even though they lost, I was trying to figure out a way to move them down, but I didn't want to really move them down too far. And like I said, the Broncos didn't play this week, and I didn't think jumping them 2 spots as well really made a bunch of sense, because for as much of a struggle as the Cardinals have had this year, I think the Broncos have struggled just as much. Maybe you give a slight edge to Denver's defense over the Cardinals' defense, but I think I would take the Cardinals' offense over Denver's offense. So that's kind of where my thinking is on those 2 teams being the way they are. Bears at 22, rather, not Packers. Bears at 22. Massive leap for the Bears. I would probably say I've had them a little bit lower than they should, but the last 3 weeks, they're averaging more than 30 points a game on offense. If they can just kind of rein in the defense a little bit, this is a team that's sneakily getting better each and every single week. Justin Fields setting the record for rushing yards by a quarterback in a game in that 35-32 effort loss against the Dolphins. This is what the Bears offense was supposed to be. A team that can really move the football on the ground. Justin Fields can make throws when necessary, and they are putting up a ton of points. And I don't think a lot of people expected this team to be doing that, but these last 3 weeks have looked really good offensively for the Bears. Then we have ourselves the Browns sitting at 21. Again, another team that didn't play, but moving up a spot, largely in part thanks to the Packers' free fall down the boards. Moving into the next 4 now, we're looking at the Saints at 20, the Rams at 19, the Commanders at 18, and then the Falcons at 17. So the Saints moving up a spot despite their loss, again, in large part because of that Packers free fall, but they are what they are right now. They have a solid defense and an offense that is just like woefully inconsistent. 1 week they're putting up 45 points, and then like 38 points, whatever it was when they lost to the Cardinals a few weeks ago. And then you have a week where this week, they've got 13 points and not really a ton to show for it offensively. I don't really know what to make of the Saints team, but because of how good the defense is, I have them a little bit higher than some of the other teams on this list here. I really like the Saints D, and I know that Jameis Winston has been gone for a while, but I'm curious to see if after this week, I believe he's healthy from what I've heard, if this is it for Andy Dalton and we start to see Jameis Winston coming back now. I think Jameis Winston can open up the offense a little bit more. This Saints team has been dealing with a ton of injuries, and if they can at least start to get a little bit healthier and Jameis Winston can get back in the fold and open up the offense, open up the deep threat, maybe things start to look better for New Orleans. They're in a division right now that is wide open. The Buccaneers lead it at 4-5, so they're not dead yet, but they're definitely in a little bit of a tough spot right now. Rams at 19, they drop 3 here after losing 16-13 in a comeback victory to the Buccaneers. I don't really know what to say about the offense over there in LA. The offensive line is in absolute shambles, and they're struggling to move the football. It feels like Matthew Stafford to Cooper Kupp is the only thing they can really do right now, and teams are well aware of that, and they got to start figuring something out here. Commanders, despite losing a really tight loss to a really good team, hats off to them. They do move up a couple of spots here just because of the fight that they have put up. They've won some good games as of late, and then you took the Vikings to the absolute limit here, losing 20-17 in a tight one. So respect goes to them. Credit goes to them. You move up a couple of spots despite your loss. And then the Falcons, sitting at number 17, staying put where they are. This is a team that, they've been in it. They've been in it for a lot of their games, in their wins and in their losses. And they were, quite frankly, a turnover away. They damn near won this game. They took the Chargers literally to the very end, and respect goes out to them. If they can just figure out the defense, that's really what it comes down to with this team. The offense is rolling on the ground. Cordell Patterson is an absolute beast. He had a couple of touchdowns in this game, and if they can just sort out the defense, tighten things up on that end of the football, this is a Falcons team that can move on offense. It's just the defense that they need to find the backup in. So if they can get defense sorted out, especially when it comes to defending the pass, this team can be a legitimate threat. Again, in an NFC South that is wide open right now with a division leader at 4-5. Next four teams that we're looking at here, we have ourselves the Bucks at 16, the Patriots at 15, the 49ers at 14, and then the Chargers at number 13. So Buccaneers move up a couple of spots in a very tight comeback victory over the Rams, a much-needed victory at that to keep their season alive. They kind of needed the win a little bit more than the Rams did, considering what the records were at going into this game, as the Rams, I believe, were 3-4, Bucks being 3-5, so a much-needed victory on their end to now lead the division. And again, Brady doing his thing, comeback victory in about like 30 some odd seconds, whatever the actual number was. Brady doing Brady things, even if this team has been a mess offensively with inconsistencies all over the field, still finding some ways to win and keeping themselves in the thick of a playoff race for a division right now that does not look great. Patriots at 15. You get a win over the Colts, but it was a sloppy win at that. Like I mentioned when I was talking about the Colts, I was there for the game. I watched the offense and the way they played. A little discombobulated. I am not a fan at all of the play calling over there, especially when they get close to the red zone. But it is what it is. You got yourself a 26-3 victory off the back of a excellent defensive performance. Matthew Judon is looking like a real potential defensive player of the year candidate. And if the defense continues to play the way they are, they're 5-4 right now. The AFC East has a strong possibility of sending all four teams to the playoffs at this point with the expanded playoff setup now. So we'll see how things turn out. But Patriots looking solid. They do move down a spot. It was an ugly win, but still a win. But they do move down a spot because of some movement going on around them. They were 14 on my board last week. 49ers at number 14, they dropped 3 spots here. I know they were on a bye week. They didn't play. Why are they being penalized? It's more so just because of movement going on around them with a few teams. But right now, for me, it's just, I guess I got to just keep seeing them continue to thrive with Christian McCaffrey on the offense now. So we'll see where the things go. And obviously, defense has been a little bit hurt here and there. So as they get healthier, real possibility this team climbs back up. But again, they only really moved down just because of some movement going on around them. Chargers at number 13, they fall a spot here. Again, you won a game, as I mentioned when I was talking with the Falcons, and you very much struggled in this win here against... I really expected the Chargers to be able to take advantage of the defense, especially, again, that passing D of the Falcons a little bit more aggressively, but it is what it is. Very, very close call with some of the turnovers, especially late at that game. That last fumble there, watching that back, I legitimately thought the Chargers were done there. But they thankfully come away with the win. They kick the field goal as time expires. You get the job done. You do move down a spot because, again, it's a good win, but it was a very scary and ugly win. Bengals moving up a spot here to number 12. You completely blow out the Panthers. And I've got to say, one of the more impressive victories I think we've seen of the year. Joe Mixon, 5 touchdowns, winning fantasy leagues all around this week with the performance that he had. It just felt like every time I looked, because I was at the Patriots game when this game was going on. I felt like every time I looked at my phone to check scores and whatnot, Joe Mixon, another touchdown. Joe Mixon, another touchdown. I was like, my goodness. But hats off to them. It could just complete dominant performance. It really is starting to feel like this Bengals team is finding their stride on offense, and Jamar Chase isn't even on the field. Just wait till he comes back. If they can continue to run the football the way they do, and they get Jamar Chase back and open things up even more with the passing game, look out, because it's been taking the Bengals a little bit, and they've definitely been a little bit of a roller coaster this first half of the season, but I think they're really starting to figure it out, and this was a game they needed. They really needed to establish the run. They took advantage of a not too great Panthers run D, so this was the game that they needed. The Jets moving up 4 spots. You get a massive upset victory over the Buffalo Bills, one that I don't think a lot of people expected, but I did bring it up when I was talking about my picks. I picked the Bills to win that game because I ultimately thought that maybe they win by like 3 or something like that. I know that the line was like Bills something crazy, like double digits minus something, but I was not really high on that. I thought, Jets for the points and potentially the upset victory. Listen, nobody can pressure the quarterback the way this Jets team can with a 4-man rush. They blitz at almost the least in the league, if I'm remembering correctly. It might even be the least, or it's one of the lowest. It's like in the top or in the bottom 3 of the league. But they bring the most pressure out of just about anybody in the league as well. That is a lethal combination when you're only pressuring with 4 guys and you're dropping back the other 7, and that even leads to good opportunities to just drop 8 and bring only 3 guys because your pass rush is that effective. Look out for the Jets. I know they had an ugly game against the Patriots the week prior. They got a bye week, and they got the Patriots again. We'll see what happens. But this Jets team, man, if they can just figure out how to beat New England, they're a legitimate threat. They are a legitimate threat. Titans dropping a spot here to number 10, taking the Chiefs to the absolute limit earlier this week. I cannot believe how close this game was. And for a team that has Malik Willis leading the way, barely throwing the football, and being able to take what some people consider like an AFC championship team to the absolute brink, unbelievable performance by them. I don't know if this is like this Titans team is probably one of the most well-coached teams we have seen in a long time. And I got to give credit to Mike Vrabel for the injuries that they have dealt with for the last few years in some of the worst positions possible, and to still be fighting for legitimate number one spots these last couple of years the way they have. Hats off to the Titans, man. You got to give Mike Vrabel his flowers, man. It's an unbelievable effort on his part, and for him to be able to rally the troops, and you literally took them to overtime, and there was a point where you thought, the Titans are really going to do this. They're going to really upset Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, but ultimately they fall. You can't really knock them for the way they lost that game. I mean, it is what it is. They probably shouldn't have been in the position that they were, but they were, and I cannot praise this Titans team enough. I can't. And then the Giants, they wrap up this group here at number 9. I don't know what to make of this team. I know they didn't play this week, obviously, but it's one of those things where it's just like, I need to see some more from that offense going forward, especially after them trading away Kadarius Toney. I really need to see some serious juice from this offense going forward. I believe in the Giants. I think they have a really good defense, and this offense on the ground has been awesome. I want to see that passing attack really flourish, though, and really open things up. Like, I want to see Daniel Jones have like a 350-yard, 2-3 touchdowns, maybe a pick passing type of game, and really solidify my belief in them being like a top 10 team, I guess you could say. Really good team, awesome record right now. They are right in the thick of the NFC East race, but again, I just want to see them have a big game coming up in the next few weeks here through the air specifically. Next group of 4, we got the Dolphins at 8. We got the Seahawks at 7, Ravens at 6, Cowboys at 5. Not a ton of movement going into the top here, and I'll be completely open with you guys about it. Dolphins, they move up a couple of spots. They slided to the number 8. They're really coming into their own. The defense is a little bit worrying. I don't know if this game was the Bears offense just truly finding themselves, or if the Dolphins defense really has an issue defending against the run. We'll see as time goes on, but Tua has really lit it up since coming back. And I mean, at this point, the Dolphins are undefeated this season with Tua as their starter. And when he's slinging, and those wide receivers that they've put around him are just so good. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, an unbelievable duo and a force to be reckoned with. And I don't think any team really has the firepower to defend them as efficiently as they'd want to. We'll see if they can run into a team that can actually slow them down. But with Tua in the fold, and he from start to finish plays games, 6-0, man. And it doesn't really seem like the Dolphins are slowing down right now. That's all I got to say about them. And then for my top 4, and because like I said, there was no real movement. The Seahawks, they got the win. Ravens, they got the win. Cowboys, they are where they are. I still believe in that defense. The Vikings round out the top 4. Chiefs at 3. Bills at 2. Eagles at 1. No movement at all from number 7 to number 1. My list stands as it is. And you're probably thinking to yourself, no movement at all. The Bills just lost. And, the Chiefs, they nearly lost as well. My biggest reasoning for all of this and why this top 7 of teams just did not move and stayed put where it is because while I love the Vikings, I think that offense is awesome. They showed a little bit of cracks this week, and I don't know if I can buy the Vikings defense as much as I can the Bills and the Chiefs right now. I also believe in Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen a little bit more than I do Kirk Cousins or say Dak Prescott, where the Cowboys are sitting at number 5. The Ravens looked really good in their win this week, and the Seahawks pulling out a win over the division rival again. Awesome showing by them. I'm just fairly confident in my top 7 in the way I have them ordered. My Eagles are sitting at number 1, or the Eagles, not my Eagles, excuse me. The Eagles are my number 1 team is what I should be saying. I've been with the Eagles at number 1 for quite some time now. Only undefeated team, and you can't really argue the Bills and the Chiefs now. Both of them have at least 2 losses, and the Vikings, the only other team that has 1 loss and they lost to the Eagles. So I'm just very confident in where my top 7 is right now. But I would love to hear what you guys think about this, especially that those top 8 teams. I would love to hear what you guys think about this grouping here because, like I said, no real movement from 7 to 1. This is the same group I had last week, and to be fair, this is a pretty rock solid group from the week prior to that too. I think maybe the Seahawks slipped into here, but my top 6, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head, been pretty solid and has been what it has been. This is how I felt about all the teams for a while in this group, so I'm going to keep them as is. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate y'all for watching. I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.